It's not more or less than 2. It is at parity.
Time's up. Let's do this.
We're in for a wild night.
Welcome, everyone, to episode 237 of Born to be Wild, a wild and wild-adjacent Hearthstone podcast where we have fun hanging out with friends, talking about the wild formats of Hearthstone, and spotlighting members of the wild community. I am your host, ElectricSheepCity. It is great to be back, and I mean back, on this wonderful Friday evening here in Kickin' Rad, Colorado. I am joined by fellow hosts Hydralisk.
Yo!
And Schmoopydady.
Happy to be back contributing to the pod.
For those of you joining us for the first time, welcome aboard. We record this podcast live every Friday evening at twitch.tv/borntobewildhs, and the video version of this podcast is then posted to YouTube shortly thereafter. Audio versions are also distributed to all podcast apps. However you are watching, listening, or absorbing via osmosis this podcast today, thank you. Yes, you.
Content plug, Schmoopydady. Before we get into the main topic of the show tonight, I'd like to say a quick thank you to the patrons of our show. Your support means the world to us. If you enjoy this content, please like, subscribe, and comment on this video on YouTube. Another simple way to support the show is to leave a review on your podcast platform of choice. If you're watching live on Twitch, we've got some awesome emotes that you can unlock by subscribing to the channel. This is free if you use Amazon Prime. Finally, if you'd like to support the show financially, you can join our Patreon for as little as $1 per month. We have some channels in the Discord that are unlocked by subscribing to the Patreon where you can see the show come together each week. Check it out. And if you'd like to interact with us personally, please join our Discord, a free and amazing online community of friends from all across the world who love talking about Wild Hearthstone. Links to all of this stuff and more, including our merch, can be found on our website, which is www.borntobewildhs.com. It's been a minute. Sheep, how was your weeks?
They were busy, good, bad, both. So work, just, work. It's a lot of it right now. It's going to be for a while. That's all right. School. So, the past 2 weeks I was out because, I had big assignments for school. That's, a thing that we've mentioned that I was doing and been doing good on those. So I have a month left in this class, and then I have one more class, and then I'm done with grad school. Done. So the end is nigh. Yeah, buddy. So then the week prior to that, my wife was at a conference in New Orleans, which was great. But that means that I was also solo parenting, and the lamb was definitely not asleep. By the time we were doing stuff and would have been doing stuff and things here, unfortunately. So I even had to listen to that one on the podcast platform of choice. So it's been a wild few weeks as well. There's kind of been some sickness going throughout our house too. So, last week, the lamb brought home just a cold. He and I both had it. My wife also had it. And then he also had diagnosed earlier this week a sinus infection or sinusitis right before the show. And one of the reasons we were late is that I was doing the thing on the phone, which they said is so quick and convenient, and there were only 6 people ahead of me, and it was none of those things. We were very late, and we should not have been. It was
unlucky.
Yeah. But what can you do? So if I sound a little raspy right now, that's what's going on there. It happens sometimes. Glasses broke again. So I'm wearing my really, really old ones right now. My son at one point when, he's sick and grumpy and he's 2, so he's still like learning how to deal with all of the like new feelings, which are all overwhelming and stuff. And none of that makes this okay. Like I was still very upset about this, but like he grabbed my, like, don't get me wrong. I was pissed.
Like, why would you do that?
Yeah, so he like had my glasses and just like went, and they, came twisted for our audio enjoyers, twisted them and they split like, there's the bridge connects to 2 of them. One of the connections is, what was off. I haven't had those glasses for very long. They're still under warranty and they were like flex on or whatever. So they're supposed to be able to like be moved and not break. In fact, they actively demonstrated exactly there to me in the, like, when they sold them to me. So like, okay.
Did you explain? A 2-year-old was able to break these. And when you showed me, you're like 30 and you couldn't break them. How did a 2-year-old do it?
Dude, I broke a pair leaning on them one time. Like, the little guy's asleep and you're like, all right, I'm just going to lie down next to him and hope that they stay asleep. And then like, nope, my glasses are broken. Unlucky.
It'd be like that sometimes. Funky things can happen. And, I didn't even have to go into it because I haven't had them for very long. So it was all under warranty, like no questions asked. So no biggie at all, but still. Just like last time, whenever I was like, oh man, all these headaches and stuff, like that's, part of it, but also, sinus infection. So that's going to be a thing then anyway.
Yeah.
A little infection.
On the Hearthstone front, with all of the life that has been happening these past few weeks, for the first time in ages, and I mean ages, I did not hit Legend in our formats of Wild or Twist. I basically, so on mobile, I'm on a Pixel phone and still to this day do not have the text. I know that they're working on it. Like, I know that it's a tricky thing, but like at the same time, it's been a while, y'all. Like I've been out for 3 weeks and I talked about it for multiple weeks before then. So like, y'all at this point, I understand, but like also, come on.
KBLT has the same problem, I think, is what I've heard. Is like he's like, I just don't know what the cards are called because there's no way to know.
It's unknowable.
Just a strange bug.
Yeah,
unknowable. True.
The text does still appear like on the deck list if you're looking at it there, but while you're looking through your collection, what you're selecting, like it makes it almost untenable to like build a deck on mobile because of that. But that's still where I'm playing most of my games. Since the new season's been up, so I only got to like platinum in our format, but still had 9x. Like, didn't still have 10, but still had 9. It was really just a games played. Like, I enjoyed what games I was playing. I was having fun with it. Twist I was enjoying, but like, dude, the queue times were like, it was like, okay, if I'm gonna have to wait 5 minutes, like I could just be done with a game of Wild or Standard by like, or halfway through at least by that point. Like, nah.
Yeah.
So
Doctor like tried to push for rank 1 and found himself at rank 2 and was just like, I can't go any further. Like I can't do any more with this. It's too hard.
Mm-hmm. I have been playing in both formats because Standard and Wild this season so far. Hero Power Druid, Protoss, and our format, of course, with the quest line. It was funny earlier today, because I was playing on mobile, of course. Just like on Wild first, and then I queued up a Standard game, and and then look after the mulligan. I was like, oh no, did I mulligan the quest away? Like, what happened? And then I was like, all right, no, I'm playing standard now. Because all of those cards were in both decks.
Yeah, it's very funny.
And that's what I hit legend with, like, in standard last month, fairly early-ish on, if I recall correctly. Like, and the deck is so, there's so much overlap with the wild version. I mean, we get the your hero power gets to 5, and then or more if you get lucky like rolls with Moonlight Guidance. That may be just in our format. Or the 1 mana cactus, whatever, that where you discover a 2 mana card and you get Groovy Cat. Again, no text, so card names. It's impossible to know. I will explain them though.
Right.
Oh, you mean Cactus Construct?
Thank you. So, but 5, so you get that one plus a sing-along buddy plus at least one of the 2/3s where you can like refresh your hero power. And if you have anything on board or are Innervate, but for Protoss, old school Innervate, but for Protoss cards, that one, the 0 mana one, just those 3 is 10 damage. But then if you can repeat it, or if you repeat it twice, been there before too with the 2/3, you can deal just 30 damage in one go, like without even having a minion with charge on the board if you do it that way. So burst potential is absurd, and that's in standard. So like it's one of those like wild decks. It's a wild play pattern. It's something that I've been doing and what we've all probably been doing in wild for ages. So it's all really fun to see it there. Without the quest line though, you don't have the armor gain, so it is a little bit trickier. You are on a knife's edge a little bit more. Because you also don't have the 8 mana 4/6 taunts that get cheaper for the amount of armor that you have. That's not a new card. I just can't recall because I haven't seen it in the title in ages. Anyway, but so many of those tools that we have in Wild that just make aggro like almost an auto win. If you don't draw incredibly poorly, aren't available in standard. I've been playing more of our format since the new season started. So, for that exact reason, it's just like, oh yeah, it feels so much more like home. Like, yeah, that's been so much fun.
Nice.
Hydra, please tell me what you've been doing, because I know one of them. And it's one thing that we've talked a little bit on off mic, so I'm excited to hear it come up. Talk about it with you, Nate, here.
Yeah, no, sounds good. It's kind of funny. This last week seems like a blur in that we just did last week's episode with Boogerworm, which was fantastic. And then it's already Friday again. I don't really know how that happened. But this past week, we'll start off in my King Corner is I decided to read a book because Sheep and I were talking about a movie. Ari Moore knows about it as well. It's the Life of Chuck. So it's an upcoming movie that's coming out. Obviously, it's a Stephen King. It was written, I think, back in, I'm going to say like 2019 or something like that. It's part of the If It Bleeds collection. And so it's a novella. There's, I believe, 4 books inside the larger volume. Mm-hmm. And this is Loki, if you noticed. What's his name? Tom
Hiddleston.
Hiddleston. So I knew that this movie was coming out. In fact, on IMDb, it says 2024, and I was confused for a little bit. I thought it had already come out, and I was actively avoiding watching it, even though it actually isn't released till the end of May. But so I like panicked because Sheep's like, hey, the movie. And I was like, yeah, I thought that was out. And I was like, a panic, like read it. I was like, I have to read the book. I have to read the book before I see the movie. Now I've got like 3 months till the movie actually comes out. And I was like,
oh no.
I guess I guess I rushed it. I read it in one sitting. Just decided to not leave the couch. It was quite short. It's a novella, so it's kind of like an 100-page sort of grouping there. Like it's not really long, but I couldn't put it down, which was like the craziest thing.
Nice.
Like I won't give too much away, but what I will tell you is this that you see on the screen. It has the name Charles Krantz and it says 39 great years! ! Thanks, Chuck. And it just has a picture of someone who looks like an accountant wearing some glasses, just sitting there. And after reading it, Sheep, like I don't really want you haven't. I recommend you actually do it before the movie comes out, because looking at this, I thought it was going to be completely different than it really was. Like this, I can't say too much about it, but it's hilarious. This image is described in the book, and it's just funny. I recommend you go and you read the book. It was a good time. Like I said, it was short. I read it in like 2.5 hours, something like that. It was a quick one, and it was great. And I had myself like throughout it, I was thinking like, man, Stephen King is such a good writer. I kept just like stopping, and there was things he was saying, these references and all this stuff. Like he's so intelligent. It's really good. So highly recommend, but it doesn't come out till May 30th, the movie. So you have plenty of time, Sheep.
Yeah.
If you want to end up reading this book at some point, it's in If It Bleeds.
And I do have a 1-week school break in April, so perfect time. I mean, it's a novella too, like easy peasy.
Yeah, I think you do it. Also, I don't know why I was inspired, but I also started playing the Mass Effect Legendary Edition.
Nice. Squelch has been doing a play through for the Merry Mass Effectmas. I can't remember exactly what it was. Chris Max.
Interesting.
Chris Mass Effect.
Interesting.
Something like that, like
something along those lines.
Yeah, but they're finishing up Mass Effect 3 like very, very soon.
Oh, cool. Actually, I just remembered the reason. Why I started playing it again. So I played Mass Effect 2 like a long time ago. I didn't play 1 because it was never on PlayStation. It was on Xbox.
Right.
So I had to jump into 2, and so then I played 2 and 3 and never played 1, and this is ages ago. But the reason I actually started playing all over again is I had Googled video games made in Canada, or video game developers in Canada, and then I was looking at BioWare, and BioWare that created Mass Effect is in Edmonton, Alberta, which I spent most of my life in the big Epcor Tower, and I was like, oh, and I was like, I didn't realize that they made Mass Effect in like basically my hometown that I lived at forever. I was like, you know what?
Oh, that's cool.
I'm going back and I'm gonna play all through Mass Effect again because they made it in Edmonton. So yeah, that was the reason. That was my sole reason. And then EA Electronic Arts bought them at some point in time, and that's how it's owned by Electronic Arts. But yeah, it was created by BioWare.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my whole reason. And I you know how thorough I am with stuff, right? How I can't watch a movie before I read the book, everything. So, you know, in Mass Effect, there's a lot of dialogue.
He's a good man,
like,
and thorough.
You go and you talk to an NPC, and you can just go deeper and deeper and deeper. Mm-hmm. And then I also realized you get XP for like the deeper you go. And so I'm just like sitting here basically eating popcorn. It's more like a movie than it is a game. I did like in 4 hours, I think I did maybe 3 missions or something, and the rest was just all dialogue. It was hilarious. But good games. Nice. And it's like the remastered Legendary Edition, right? So everything looks great, and I'm playing it like 120 frames per second or something, so it looks awesome. Yeah, like way higher than the original like 30 frames that you would play on PS3 in the start. But yeah, as for Hearthstone, at the end, I spoke about this last week at Legend at the end of the month, and then I wanted to get a big jump start on it at the beginning of this month, because kind of feels lackluster when you hit Legend at the very end of the month with like a day and a half left, and then you don't really get to play.
You're a legend. No, you're not.
Yeah. Exactly. So I was like, I'll just do it right away. And then my final boss that I had last month, my first final boss, was that big shaman that I profusely complained about. And then it's like the client heard me, listened to the podcast, and was like, we're going to punish Hydra. Hydra is going to queue into nothing but shamans for like the first 10 games of the next season and make Hydra like force quit, like rage quit the game, which is what I did. On the weekend, I played and I played and I played and I lost and I lost and I lost. I was bragging about having the high win rate of 73% up to legend, and I reversed it. I was at 37%.
No.
On the weekend. It was just brutal, and I said, you know what? I'm just gonna chill. That's when I decided to play Mass Effect. I'll jump back into it a little bit later. This weekend, I'm gonna jump back in. All week long, I basically was in maintenance mode of daily quests and doing the new challenges for the new event and that kind of thing. And that's basically it. And yeah, we'll jump back in. We'll definitely jump back in. I don't want to wait too long. It's only one weekend, so we're good. But that's basically been my week. Schmoopydady, how was your week?
My week, yeah. So I don't know if Schmoopy's asleep yet. It's finally quiet downstairs, so I'm assuming he did fall asleep. He's had a little bit of a cold, so he's been a little sniffly, a little bit of pain in the butt when he's sniffly.
It's going around. I was quarantined from you, and I tried not to give it to Schmoopy, but
too bad, man.
It's going around, man.
Unlucky.
I'm sorry.
But he's he'll be okay. He's been okay. He's been okay. We're getting back in the swing of things after getting off of like winter break, and it's been a little bit of an adjustment, but he'll be fine. I played Blood Decay up to like 144. I started at like 230 one session, and I was like, why don't I play this list that I want to beat up on some aggro. Why don't I play this list that I got from OTZ not that long ago? And then I did some refining of the list, and I was like, yeah, this could be pretty fun. And I took it, and I did way better than I expected. I expected to just basically be griefing aggro, and instead I ended up beating shamans and beating slow decks and beating combo decks, and I was like, well, what am I doing different here? And that's when I realized, like, built in is Kerrigan, Queen of Blades, right? Kerrigan is extra rats, and so like as long as you're printing Vipers, like you can kind of win any slow game. And I'll talk about another interaction that I really like later on, because we're going to showcase the list a little bit during the news. But got my neon tweet, got DK populated for a little bit. Dude, there's nothing more depressing than being like, oh man, I really want to try some like really new cool deck. Let's see what cool DK deck is there, and you're the last person to post anything. That is like brutal. So I'm glad that DK got some new stuff. We got some funny gifs from Twitter being like, is this bait? Almost certainly. If you have the cards, try it out. But like I'm having a lot of fun with it, and it's like fairly competitive, so like it's better bait than usual. Last but not least, I was doing a Survivor competition throughout the week. And in that Survivor competition, I was basically testing, okay, which are the best budget techs for Wild, which was cool because, like, nice. I have a lot of standard friends now that come and hang out on stream that are just like, oh, well, we're Wild curious. Let's see what's going on in this format. And I don't know if they hang out just to see the Wild or just to see me, whatever. Not really the point. The point is like, they're there, and I'm like, well, I want you guys to play too. And so I wanted to do a budget series right before the end of the expansion, just to give people an option to, like, if they're sick of standard, if they're really sick of standard right before rotation, come hop in Wild and let's see what you got, what we can play with. And the rules were no more than 5k dust, no more than 2 legendaries that you need to craft, and anything from the core or anything that you got for free, that would not count towards the dust total. So that actually gives you a fair amount of wiggle room. There's there's even a couple of decks that are meta decks that if you gave it instead like more like it was like if you went up to like 6,000, you could fit a ton of meta decks. But I didn't want to do that. I wanted to make it a little bit more tricky. Yeah. So we didn't. So we made it more tricky. And it was great. And we just finished that up last night. Blessed Priest won. Who could have foreseen this? Blessed Priest is really good.
I ran
and so
into
that
one.
was that was pretty much my week. And my week streaming. Like I did a ton of that, essentially, that kind of content for a long time. So what was on the news?
Welcome to the news. The news is so good.
Yeah, so there was a lot of news last week. This week, we have a lot of new cards to talk about, so that's news-ish. So we also got a new portrait from Death Knight in the shop for 1,000 gold, or it looks like €7. I didn't snag a screenshot on mine. I snagged Anchorman's screenshot. I paid for it in gold, so I don't know what it cost in monies. But I definitely picked this up.
Gold, yeah.
Yeah. I think that it's really cool to see one of these in Death Knight. Like, it's the kind of Chinese New Year.
I remember the ones where they release all the Chinese New Year skins and everything like that. Like, it was really neat.
Yeah. And I can picture them, but I can't recall what they're called. Like, this one is Lubu.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But I can't recall what the other ones were for, like the Valera or the
Valera one's cool. That's the one that comes to my mind when I think about it.
It's one of the classics, yeah.
Exactly. Whenever I think of it, the Valera is the one that I think of first. But seeing a new one in that line from a class that wasn't there before and being able to pick it up with gold and not money, like, yes, and yes. This is awesome. Love to see that. Anytime that they give me an option to spend more on things with gold instead of money, I am a big proponent of, because, like, I have a lot of gold and I would rather spend that than money. So please continue that. If I have no more gold, then maybe, like, I will spend more money. But until then, I have gold. Is there anything else that y'all want to talk about before we jump into the cards that came out or that were revealed for the new expansion this past week, and kind of highlight some of the wild viability and possibilities that maybe, like, at least starting to at least slightly sniff at?
We got to get a little grumpy first.
Yeah.
We got a little get a little grumpy.
Let's go.
I mean, I'm not grumpy, but we did have, like, this new event quest, right? So we get, like, new free stuff, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that jumps out when we get these new quests for the paid track, or
first thing I noticed.
First thing you notice is the big ones, the big quests. Hydra, what are the big quests like?
To do a bunch of stuff in ranked standard. The key word there is standard. They could have stopped at ranked Hearthstone, but the term was ranked standard. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure that both of you, that was the first thing that you noticed as well. As soon as I saw that, it was kind of sad, right? So you're supposed to play cards from the last 3 expansions in ranked standard. We can do that in ranked wild as well. Obviously, they're promoting the format, but I've seen comments online of, hey, way to punish the most dedicated players. The most long-term invested players. I'm not saying that that's what's happening. No one's being punished, right? But it's making people hop into standard, but not everybody plays standard. Like, if all you do is you play wild, now you got to hop over into that format. No. What was your first thoughts?
that's the only reason why I played some of the standard and why I was like, hey, why is there no quest line in my hand? Did I mess up my mulligan? That's why. It was because I was like, oh yeah, I'm falling behind on this weekly quest. Like I need to just play some standard games. Like it has the Protoss package. I'm, gonna get there before too long, but I'm not making progress playing the mode that I want to. It's making me play standard. I was going to do that at some point anyway. It's making me do it now. I'd rather play wild, but like it's just kind of mildly annoying because I'm playing the same general archetype, which, would be what would have progressed me in wild for the same exact quest if it didn't say standard. It is altering my play pattern, but it's a quest. It's a thing that I'm doing to get free stuff. Right? Like if it was just like as easy as doing like nothing and just earning it by, playing like I would otherwise, that would, be neat. But them getting me to play out of my normal play pattern to get free stuff, I could just ignore it and do the other one. I still would rather it be ranked, but I'm not like super grumpy about it. I'd rather do it in wild. That's my general thought. What do you think?
Yeah, I just decided I'm just not going to do any of the big quests. Like I don't think I need to. I think I'm playing enough that I'll probably just do just fine without it. And so like I'm not stressed about it. I don't really care either way. I think if you do just your dailies and get your 100 points a day, right? It says we have this for roughly like it was like 18 days or something like that. Like that'll get you about halfway. After halfway, I don't remember if it's like presentational or if it's new material that's being gated. I don't know. I just like I feel like it's one of these things where I get that like people have a leg to stand on, but like a leg doesn't mean a soapbox. Like there's like so many people that are just complaining. Oh, this is proof they don't care about wild. This is proof they don't love us. And like, guys, I just think it's an oversight. Like there's a reason why like somebody is doing this. Somebody wants people to play standard, obviously, and like so they want us to play standard. I don't know. I can't get too bent out of shape about it. This is how they want us to play their game so that we can get the free stuff. Like we're ultimately, once again, it's like comes down to people are complaining about free. Once again, Hydra.
Yeah. So us as wild players are a much smaller community than the two bigs. The two bigs are standard and BGs, right? I think this is actually more of an attempt to get Battlegrounds players to play standard, right? Like,
oh, that would make sense. It's interesting.
You know what I mean? Like wild players, whatever.
100%.
Like we're small. We can pop over. We've got all the cards anyway. It's not that big of a deal. It's the people that play Battlegrounds that play the game for free, right? Unless they want the extra hero choice. They're just popping in. They're playing the game for free. Well, guess what? Here's these cool things, these shinies you can get, the stuff that you can have. It just encourages those people. There's a way higher population in BGs than there is in Wild. So I don't think is by any means a slight on us piddly little Wild players, this like in our small corner over here, right? Like I think it's more of ranked standard. Like if BG's players are going to jump into constructed, they're probably going to jump into standard. They're not going to jump into wild, right? That's where you start. That's where you learn the new 100%. Cards, that kind of thing. I would encourage the reverse, that you, if you were going to start playing constructed, that you did start in wild and build your collection there, because that's the better investment. But that's where they want their core audience.
Well, and it also may kind of be a missed opportunity for almost an inadvertent recruitment for our mode, because it could be that someone hasn't played, ranked anything, standard or wild, in ages. And, they haven't disenchanted their collection because, they've just been playing Battlegrounds. But, they get this pop up and they're like, okay, maybe what can I build? Like, oh, I still have this deck from whenever I played before. Like, let's throw some of the new stuff in if that's what the quest calls for or whatever. But if they only have old cards, they wouldn't they'd have an added barrier to entry for that. Whereas if they were able to do it in Wild, then, our format, then that barrier to entry would be negated. So it's almost kind of a missed opportunity for re-engagement for some of these players, in a way, for the constructed Hearthstone as a whole, rather than just kind of making it specifically standard or specifically Wild, for that kind of re-engagement of that old player base. Which they do a good job of, with the catch-up packs and stuff like that. But if you've been logging into Battlegrounds, are you being offered those? Because you've been logging into the game. Do you get that same catch-up mechanic?
I don't think you do.
I don't think you do.
I don't think you would.
So, yeah, it's really unfortunate that it's kind of almost gatekeeping that a little bit more unintentionally. Like, obviously, that's not the goal. The goal is to try and get you back into playing Constructed. Standard is where they make their money, but if they kind of get their claws back in you, then you keep on playing again, then hey, here are new cards. Standard, is easier. There's a reason why I had Legend in Standard and not in Wild last season.
The first time they convinced me to pre-order a bundle was the Mean Streets pre-order. Before then, I was like 100% free to play. Mm-hmm. And Sheep, you just said get their claws in you. Their claws are in me.
Uh-huh.
They
don't need to be clawing anymore.
8 straight years of pre-ordering, right? So
yeah.
No, they got their claws. I am a primarily a Wild player, but I buy the standard pre-orders every single time, 3 times a year.
Yep. That's how they get you. All right. So we've got some cards that have been revealed in the past week that are showing some pretty exciting Wild possibilities, like Spirit Gather in particular. I'm excited to wisp me, dude. So Schmoopydady, guide me through.
Yeah, we can start with that. It's weird. Wisp me, dude. Wisp mage. So imbue is our new keyword, right? So imbue is our new keyword that's going to be giving us new mechanic. In mage, it changes your hero power to a 2-mana, deal 1 damage to a random enemy, and print a wisp on the board. So the imbue is the first imbue changes your hero power, and then after that, you will be finding yourself, doing other imbue pew things. Upgrading the hero power. We can still upgrade it with wildfire, funny things like that, and kind of just sort of go from there. I think it's like funny. Like, we have Reckless Apprentice in our format, so it's not like completely unfortunate as far as silly things that we can do. Mm-hmm. So I like this card. I like this more for the memes than for the actual competitiveness. I would not be shocked if no, it is not the Stone Cold Nuts and Wild, but it's at least funny, and we have some funny things that we can do in the format to kind of supplement it. Our next card is our 1/1. What is that? Reinhardt Dryad.
Rotheart Dryad. Death Rattle, draw a minion that costs 7 or more.
So if you're looking at that, right? If you're looking at this particular card, I saw it personally as a way to bounce, a way to go grab a Flesh Giant. Mm-hmm. I saw it as a way to, if you want in Reno Lock, go tutor one of your big uglies. Like, there's some silly things that I think you can do with this this particular card.
Yeah.
It just looks solid, and it's only a 1/1, so it's like, all right, cool. So that's fun. That's going to see probably play in Wild, I would guess.
I would guess too.
We've got.
I
Go ahead, what were you gonna
imagine.
say, Sheep?
I imagine that in the deck that we play both this and the subsequent card, that we were probably playing the Ceaseless Expanse, just for the high rolls. And this would also get us a Ceaseless Expanse as part of that limited pool of impactful high cost cards, like the next card we'll talk about, which is
right, so
Agamagan. I don't know how to say it.
I don't either.
So it's a 10 mana
me.
8/9 beast with a battle cry. The next card you play costs your opponent's health instead of mana up to 10. So it cannot OTK your opponent. It's capped at 10. So you can't do the complete silly with the Ceaseless Expanse, like I was just intimating would be the silly. I didn't the fun. I didn't realize that it was capped. That takes the most fun out of it, unfortunately.
This doesn't look good, but people are like wild curious about it. So like people are looking at this card and they're like, well, you can kill through block with it. You can kill through timeout with it. You can bypass a lot of things. We can cheat this with Cattle Rustler and make it 7, and then like what card do we play next? So it's like and also this is
Does this really
effect
work through block? Do we know?
Yes, it would work through block. The part that's a little bit tricky is, does it work through timeout? And the people who seem to know seem to say yes, it works through timeout. Works through armor. It's a lot of mana. It's 10 mana, and you'd want to combo it with something like Fanatum, which again, like you can't go over 10, but like you need a big card that you might otherwise be playing anyway. Sargeras, something like that.
Yeah.
And so like, Hat's been answering questions saying like, yes, you can find lethal with this, which is not consistent with other things of the effect. You can't pay health over the health that you have using this effect on yourself. So it feels inconsistent, even if it might be consistent. Like the language, it's like, once again, another situation where, no, I do not want to be an attorney that is arguing on behalf of the language on a Hearthstone card. I've seen some people just sort of throw up their hands and saying they're just making it up card by card at this point. So like I get it, like, but it's generating some frustration and some conversation in the community.
I feel like the like eating your opponent's health, it was called something different instead of like it costing your opponent's health, but it like the
it doesn't say deal damage, right? That's the biggest difference in wording, I feel.
Yeah, like the payoff from the showdown at the Badlands one for Warlock as well would interact that way, where it would get around like Ice Block, right? Like because it was eating it, it wasn't, didn't say that it costs it. Instead, like you said, to your point, Schmoopy, not consistent with how that's worded for your own hero, is consistent with that other effect, which is how I'm guessing like for consistency's sake in my, like whenever I'm looking at it on board, that's what I'm gonna think.
Well,
or in
they
my
can
hand.
just play objection and then this won't work.
True.
Accurate. That would be a pretty rotten apple, which is a 2-mana warlock spell that reads, restore 12 health to your hero for the next 2 turns. Deal 3 damage to your hero.
Yeah. It's funny how we're going to be building Seedlock now. We could in theory build Seedlock to be completely anti-aggro, and the win condition itself, the inevitability, is already anti-control. Mm-hmm. And you could kind of tech in rats for combo, but we could essentially be running 8 cards that heal for at least 8 plus. Mm-hmm. This is an option. I think the passive quest progress is a little bit understated. Getting 3 damage at the start of your turn that is mana that you've already had to bank isn't actually that bad. I did meme about this. I did say that I will lose to a Seedlock running double Flame Imp, double Rotten Apple, and double, what is it? Like deranged Chitterer or whatever. Like the beast that like you discover a spell and then you take damage equal, right? Like I expect to lose to a Seedlock running a bunch of bad cards and this card. It might be overkill. It might not be good enough to break into the list. But something it has over Dark Pact is it's making quest progress, which Dark Pact isn't, and you don't need a minion in order for it to work. Yeah, and it's heal 12. Like it's healing a chunk, and it's also like ticks off a Flesh Giant. So there's definitely some synergy there. I don't know if that deck is twice. And you could do it twice, and and again, it has synergy with Hearthstone. What is it? Is that what it's called? The 0 mana card. So like you're taking 3 your next turn, but now your Hearthstone is 0 mana heal 3. So it's a card to keep an eye on. I don't know if it's good enough to break into the list, but Wild players were sniffing it, and I know a lot of people were lamenting it and throwing their hands to the sky and gnashing their teeth and saying the only way to balance Wild is to delete Seedlock. I don't know if that's necessarily Wild's biggest problem right now, but like I wouldn't shock me if Seedlock did find its way up the ranks a little bit, going super anti-aggro. And we already have like Employee and on a Flesh Giant and Give It a Broom, and now you have a Flesh Giant with Lifesteal, and that's not good for anybody's health. But like, it wouldn't shock me if this became a little bit more consistent at being anti-aggro and thus maybe beat Libram Paladin a little bit more consistently, I think, which is holding it back right now. Beat Shadow Priest pretty well. They flipped that matchup. So now it's whether or not you can beat other aggro and can you beat combo quickly enough. So I don't know. That's what we're kind of looking at with Rotten Apple, is like, this might be good enough to break into the list, might not be. To be determined.
Absolutely. Well, another exciting card, this one for Rogue, is a 1-mana 1/3 beast called Twisted Webweaver. It reads, whenever you play another minion you've already played, draw a card. So there's a whole package of stuff in Rogue that is going to be terrible, but I really want to play I really want to play a Mill Rogue, and it's going to be bad, and I'm going to have so much fun playing it, like you're talking about in the Booger Worm episode last week. Like, my win rate will probably mirror his. And
I went Caverns Rogue. When I saw it.
Right. Caverns Rogue is where it's going to actually be good. But Mill Rogue, the whole package, like I want to play there. So just wanted to throw that out there because that's not going to be good, but it's going to be fun. It's going to be a blast. And now tell me about the thing that is actually, I think, going to be like viable in the Caverns Row integration.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, this seems like an obvious cavern and what's kind of cool about this is, like, let's say you're trying to complete the quest with this, which you easily have enough bounces to do. Like, every time you play it, you're drawing a card. Like, it has it's going to be like a 0 mana draw a card, 0 mana draw a card. And let's say, and like, you drop it down, and then you drop your Parachute Brigand, anchors away, and or not your Parachute Brigand, your Freebooter, and you're dropping little 1/1s after that, and that's just churning through. And ever since Secret Passage got nerfed, the deck took a hit.
Play, so unfortunately,
Parachute Brigand wouldn't work, but I meant Freebooter anyway. But all the same, like, you're bouncing. It's a 1/3. So it's sticking around. It's probably turning into a 5/5 at some point. And then you're making quest progress while you're dropping it, like behind it. It can be the little spark bots. It can be tiny pirates. It can be, I don't know, if we're going XL and we want to do Rams, we can do Rams, sure. But this is something that I think is interesting. And again, wild focused. We have some built-in synergy for this card already, and the deck's like not far away, especially the Renathal package, where you can kind of, once you do the thing, turn 5, which you can do pretty consistently even in a 40 card list, you can kind of push decks off the board, or at least blow them up from hand. So I don't know, something to keep in mind.
Seems like something they're gonna nerf Someone's gonna break it, and it's gonna be a 2-mana 1/3. I don't know. Like, I'm not saying
Maybe.
it's crazy,
Yeah, maybe.
but I'm just saying like the potential
that-
for more cycle. Like, it's an amazing cycle card if you're just even using it for that.
If the draw stacked, if let's say you play your second, like you've played your third pirate now, your third copy of the pirate, and now it's drawing 2 cards instead of 1. Absolutely. I don't know if we're seeing that though. This is a little bit more limited than that.
We'll
I think
see.
in standard it's going to be very muted. It's whether or not Caverns Below becomes the nuts in wild. I doubt it will. So I don't know if it's going to get nerfed, but if the effect was scaling, I think I agree.
Especially because a lot of the things that generate a lot of things of the same name, like the spark bots that we can do. But spark bots are rotating, aren't they? Or am I mistaken? Were those whiz bangs? Those were whiz bangs. So
No, those
sticking
were
around.
a while ago. Those were Titans, I think.
Those were
Spark
Titans?
bots
So-
are Titans, I think.
I think.
Yeah.
So if standard's not going to have those, that's the most obvious integration. They're only going to really kind of be, breakdance is rotating, bounce around feet Garona is rotating.
We got a brand
Making
new
room for new
Shadow Step
cards.
that's 2 mana. So we did get his card that like Shadow Steps a minion or brings a minion back to your hand and then leaves a 4/4 behind.
Yeah.
Which I think is
I think that's a good card.
it might crack it in Miracle Rogue. I mean I was getting poo-pooed a little bit. People were saying, no, sounds terrible. But like, you're looking for a way to bounce War Master one more time. Like you're basically getting a free 4/4 and you're dropping your War Master, and like it makes it easier to get the Scribbling Stenographers down, and like that version of the deck could always kind of use something like that. Like it's almost useless against Arcane Giants, but Arcane Giants is just 2 mana make a 4/4. So like I don't know. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. That's not a card that we ended up featuring here because it didn't strike my fancy as like something that's the nuts. But yeah, like there's things that you can bounce in standard, but like more complaining about Shadow Step, I guess. I don't know.
And Shadow Step is not leaving core. They've already posted that a while ago.
Yes.
Very funny.
So, well, Hydra, is there anything that you want to dive into deeper with that twisted web weaver?
No, I guess the reason I mentioned that I thought maybe it'll get touched at some point is the potential. There's potential, but also
There's potential.
It's 1 mana and it's a 1/3 with a much more powerful effect than any other 1/3 really has, right? Like
And it can proc itself. Which is funny.
Yeah, and it's a beast. It's a beast, so it's tutorable if you really needed to or whatever, right? Like it has the full. It's the full package. It has the full deal. They didn't leave it without a tag, like a tribe. I mean, its text is great. They didn't make it a 1/1, right? Like it's got a butt. Like they gave this the full. They're like, we want this. We want this to be good,
Mole, baby.
It's a spider.
like,
It's
this
gotta.
Right.
We'll get the
So
dire mole
it's
benefits.
kind of got the full package. That's why I feel like when they do this, it's kind of one of those ones they want it to succeed, and maybe it will. Maybe there's other things coming that this is going to work with, and they'll have to dial it back. That's kind of just a prediction at this point because it's really like a fully stacked card.
For sure. So much upside. Well, we've also got this one for Hunter. 2 mana 2/2 Exotic Houndmaster. Battle cry, draw a beast, and imbue your hero power. And Schmoopy, what does the Hunter hero power do when imbued, and then, of course, scaling up upon further bubbification?
Sure. So our friend Linny was actually able to, this is one of the cards she got to reveal, in the Hunter Imbue, changes the hero power to a 2 mana, give a random beast in your hand +1 attack and -1 mana. So it makes it cheaper and also gives it attack. This card would have been the nuts. Yes, it's good for King Plush. That's true. It would have been the nuts, I think, last expansion if we didn't have Nayeli. Like, it's going to be so interesting. We're going to have this weird interplay, I think, in Standard and in Wild, where I think this is a really good card. Like, tutoring a beast. Maybe we don't always want to do that because a lot of our beasts we want to keep in the deck and then print copies of them, right? Looking at you, Jormungers, right now. So, like, maybe that's not the greatest, but, like, I could see it being played in a Beast Hunter. I could see it being played in, let's say, some sort of like a Reno Hunter where you can't rely on Trial of the Jormungers pulling both options anyway. So, like, you might run this anyway just to kind of be like, well, I'll just go grab a beast, whatever, and run a Wild Blood Stinger as well or something. What are you going to say, Sheep?
Well, especially if the hero power becomes, you have a beast in your hand +2 or plus attack and minus.
Yeah.
Then you want to be playing beasts that you want to put into your hand. So you probably wouldn't be doing that particular combo. We'd be playing more like, I think honestly, more like a big beast hunter, like King Plush, like scaling up the attack, scaling down the cost. Like
For me, Knuckles.
Yeah, Knuckles.
Knuckles, it might actually be better. It's just it's hard to see when you're going to play this when you can also just have like 1 mana tracking. Like they're going to make us like, we're already doing this game, especially in Wild, where we also have Tavish, where it's like, okay, which hero power would we rather have? Do we want Kerrigan? Do we want the original? Do we want Tavish? Do we want tracking? And we kind of like flip around depending on like what we're trying to do at a given time, and that's making us think. And Hunter's not about thinking. That makes me hurt my head. I want to just go face. And so, like this, legitimately, like I'm going to be playing this on 2, and then I might Nayeli on 3, right?
I
might just tutor my beast.
Beast, okay.
And whenever I was playing Undasta,
I'm sorry I didn't mention Rexar too.
Undasta and all of the death rattles, like there have been more than just the aggro stuff. Big beasts. That's where I want to go with this.
I'm memeing a little bit, but you see my point where like we there's a little bit of anti-synergy there. There's a little bit of friction when you're deck building. Like this might be a dead card after a certain point, where you're just like, no, it's too late to imbue, and I don't want to switch off tracking, and now it's like a 2/2 that's just stuck in my hand.
That happens.
That happens with big decks, right? Like
that happens in lots of decks.
It does.
I think. Like you didn't get it in your mulligan. Okay, it's too late. Not playing that now.
But if my card has no text, this is me being grumpy daddy now. If my card has no text, I might not put it in my deck. So I think there's definitely it's going to be a very situational card. I think it's very strong, and the Hunter hero power seems very good. But I think it's going to take some very special niche case scenarios, again, they would say Grunter. But like again, Grunter's not a beast, but a Grunter type deck. If you're a standard enjoyer, we have Knuckles in our format, right? So like, I would play this in Knuckles Hunter 100%, because I don't always want to be tracking for pieces. I might want to go get Knuckles, pump up Knuckles' attack, and also decrease his cost. And not for nothing, I think Knuckles Hunter, especially with if we get that what's that Jormunger spell? It was 1 mana and then it became 2. They had to nerf it because it was too much on
always a bigger Jormunger.
Always a bigger Jormunger. We were very close to having a very real like Knuckles Hunter list sort of running around as a combo deck that you could play unironically. I think this fits great into that kind of deck. So this is going to be a tricky card to use in our format, because I think it's going to be dead sometimes. I'm going to see it a lot because it's a good card. It looks like a good card. It's also going to be, I think, a very easy card to sort of malpractice when you're deck building with it. So, and Linny's in the chat, and she's furious with me that I'm saying anything bad about her card whatsoever. The puppy's cute. The puppy in the picture's cute. Okay? We got a little puppy. All right, Linny, don't be mad at me anymore. Don't be mad at me anymore, please. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Like, it's a really interesting card, and the hero power is kind of strong, but they're really going to be making us think about when we want to use it.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I feel like with the whole, like, Hunter imbuing in general, like I just want to play big beasts, right? Like
That'd be fine.
You know,
yeah, it'd be fine, I think.
a lot of them are kind of mid-rangey beasts themselves that also imbue. Don't get me wrong, but that's okay because making those cheaper lets me then play them, which then increases all of the things on my, which then helps my big beast. So I want to play Mountain Bear. I want to play Undasta. I want to play the new Gold.
Let's just play one beast.
Yeah.
Let's play King Crush. Let's make cheaper copies of King Crush. Let's copy King Crush. He'll be the only beast in our deck, and we'll go from there.
Yeah,
But,
see, you're talking about a good deck. I'm talking about a deck I want to play.
Oh, well, I don't know about a good. I mean, Big Beast is not. I mean,
I'm talking about a deck I actually want to play, though.
Unlucky.
I mean, this is a 2-mana 2/2 that tutors something specific as a beast, and it's also got another plus side with it.
It's a really good card in a vacuum. It's a really good card in a vacuum.
They didn't used to make cards this good, and they are. It's a good card.
You just kind of have to pick a lane, like whether you're going to do the Niall or whether you're going to do like the Imbue Hunter is a specific archetype. You're either going to do it or you're not. Like, I don't think you just throw one or two of those in. You have to kind of commit to a package, at least of the good ones.
Maybe. So I think this is like, if anything, this is a fascinating card to talk about because I think you could have a really good discussion about, does this go in my deck or does this not go in my deck? And then make a decent case for either. And like, all right, well, it's a really good card, so maybe I put up with the pain of the anti-synergy, or maybe I don't. And I think it's going to be on a card by a deck by deck basis. Like if you're doing some sort of Amalgam Hunter, which is again sort of like Knuckles Light. Fantastic card for that. And don't laugh, sheep. I had somebody tell me they got to Legend with an Amalgam Hunter that I built.
Nice.
In 5 minutes. A couple beers deep on a stream. So it's surely a Legend viable deck, okay? Surely.
Was it like you typed in Amalgam, added everything, and then said complete my deck?
No, you only run one Amalgam. I didn't do that specifically, but I was looking for buffs and stuff.
Because if you want Amalgam, you keep on.
I know we talked about this, but like there was like a hot moment where Tom Carter was doing nothing but sending me like more and more deranged Amalgam decks.
Oh yeah,
and we got to Amalgam Warlock, and we did this like infinite combo with like Umbra, where it was dying and going into the deck, but summoning itself, and there was a cannon on board, and it was just one cannon, and then the cycle stopped, and my opponent wasn't dead, and Tom goes, "Okay." Now he had a second cannon. And I'm like, Tom, I swear to God, I'm never playing this pile again. Don't send it to me. I will ban you.
Makes me laugh every time.
Oh my God. Oh my God. So like, yeah, it definitely goes in a deck like that where we've got one beast that we're focusing on, and then we want to make it cheaper and give it bigger attack. And we have a lot of ways to copy beasts in Wild, so that could be very effective. But it's cool. It's a really cool card.
Well, another kickin' rad card is Amphibian Spirit, which is a 2-mana nature spell that reads, give a minion +2/+2 and Death Rattle. Give a friendly minion +2/+2 and this Death Rattle.
They gave us Leapfrogger in Constructed. I don't know what's going to go wrong, or when it's going to go wrong, or how it's going to go wrong. The joke in the community is like, they know this is a bad idea, right? Like, I think, like, okay, we already have like Explorer's Hat, right? We already have some cards that do a similar thing, and they're perfectly fine in Hunter. But I don't know. This just, it feels too similar to what we were doing in BGs that was a problem and like not something that we should have been doing. And so it just feels like we're going to just do that over again. Yodeler is rotating for standard, so they don't have to worry about Yodeler in their format, but like
we
can mess with some Yodeler.
Yeah.
And they already are doing like a lot of like, I think, egg support in this format. Or in this particular expansion, or not, maybe not this expansion, but we've had a lot of egg support recently.
Oh,
some decent eggs. So we might have some Breakfast Hunter. We might have a little bit of.
I was gonna say, time for some Breakfast Hunter.
Yeah. No, Death Growl also. Heaven's Door is asking about does Death Growl rotate? Yes, Death Growl rotates as well. So that's why if they just sort of say, oh, we're going to nerf Zergs and Infestor. There's literally no synergy with Infestor anymore in the format, so it'd be a silly nerf. But that's neither here nor there. I'm expecting somebody to get up to some sort of schmuckery, I'll call it, even though I want to use a different word. Some sort of schmuckery with this 2-mana amphibious whatever spell.
Well, and I also like how it one of the restrictions in Battlegrounds, if I recall correctly, was that it was giving a friendly beast. This one doesn't have that restriction. It's just a friendly minion. And it is still friendly, so it's not like that one that we played in Theory Crafting. That could go to any minion. So all good things. I mean, you play it once, and then if it doesn't get silenced, then you just like chain leapfrogs. That seems like
you can get Umber in the mix. There's way to copy death rattles. Like I don't know. It could this. We already had like the frog one, and like we have spells, and like I don't know. Ben's like I don't see it doing anything, and like maybe that's true, but you could slap this on a boar and go face with it. Like it's really stupid. It's really really stupid when you think about it. So like I don't know. I don't know.
I think that death rattle big hunter may be like kind of viable. You know, mountain bear. Like I was just talking
put this on
about.
Knuckles.
Like put it on Knuckles.
We do have play dead. Like that's the thing. Like we have play dead, and like the standard doesn't have play dead. So like that's where we were playing Starship Hunter for a hot second because we have play dead in our format, and we have feint dead.
Lion.
Right, and we have ways to trigger death rattles for things that died. Like we have like the goofy stuff we can do. So like we could just keep doing that stuff.
Mm-hmm. And just keep on chaining that leapfrog, and that'll be fun.
It's worth mentioning again. All the signaling that they've done, the anticipation is that they're going to have to nerf the StarCraft stuff in order to make this stuff viable. Again, we're sticking to a wild podcast because it's a wild podcast. I'm not talking about some of the great arena cards that came out. I'm not talking about some of the standard cards that might be standard playable. Just I don't know. Sheep, I'm interested to hear your perspective on this because you haven't been on the show the last couple of weeks. How do you feel about the set? Because for me, this is like the first set in a long time. I'm looking at some cards and I'm like, oh my God, they printed pack filler. Like this is a card that has no home. It's so bad. Where is your take on the set that you've seen so far?
There are some things that I find interesting, and it kind of comes back to what we were talking about just a little bit earlier. And we had a kind of playful back and forth, but it's also kind of true where I was like, you're talking about a good deck. I'm talking about a deck I want to play.
Right.
I'm not seeing a lot of like, there's for our format, a lot of like exciting things for kind of super competitive stuff. There are some outliers. We talked about the potential ones tonight. But I'm seeing a lot of stuff that I'm excited to play that I don't think is going to be good. And I'm going to have fun, like not gaining rank because I don't care about that all the time whenever I'm playing. Sometimes it's good to win. Sometimes it's good to have fun. Sometimes the two are the same. Sometimes they're not. But I'm excited for some of those things that I know are going to suck. But they're going to kind of be fun, and they're things that we can do in our format, like Mill Rogue I was talking about earlier. Yeah. That I'm going to play I'm drawing a blank on all of the card names now. 6 mana, all of the cards go back to your,
because you can't see them.
This one's an old one. I don't have that excuse for this one. Old. Where all of the minions go back to everyone's hand. Vanish, yeah. Like Vanish and all of the things that I would play in like a Mill Rogue deck, and the new Legendary, which is going to be bad, but I'm going to play it and it's going to be fun and it's going to win me a game by like doing that, and then Cold Light Oracle and just like mill them, and it's gonna be silly, fun nonsense. And I I've seen a decent amount of that here, but what I play standard for is typically like the more competitive itch, right? I'm not really excited from a standard perspective by a whole lot that I've really seen, to be completely honest. So I'm more excited about it for our format, where it's going to have an even lower impact, because like standard is going to have rotation, nerfs that we don't even know what are yet to bring the power level down. It's going to be more impactful there, but I'm actually more excited for the stuff that I can do in our format, even though they're going to be so much worse here. Does that make sense?
Oh, it does. Oh, totally. Let's not forget though, like it is standard rotation, right? So
yeah,
the stuff we're looking at could look like complete trash, but the devs have already built the next 2 sets basically and are kind of finalizing what those cards look like. Like they're not, I would say, completely done, but no, they're always a couple sets ahead. Like this is the year of the Raptor, and some of the stuff may look like hot garbage, but there are synergies down the road. I feel like they don't just pull this out of their butt completely, a card that's never going to do anything. Yes, pack filler, there's going to be that. There is always that. Like no matter what. But they are looking down the road. Like I said, there's a team working on the next set already, and there's a team working on the set after that. So they have a plan. I'm not saying the plan is good, but they have a plan. There is going to be synergies down the road. Stuff that makes no sense now. We've had sleepers before, okay? Right? Like Finja not having anything until it was almost done, right? Like no one thought of Finja Force 5 until it was like way later. Like there's a lot of stuff that ends up happening later on. Cards have synergies that we don't realize, and a lot of the stuff that looks like hot garbage could be totally awesome later on. So we'll see. Schmoopydady, I took your spot. Now I'm the hopeful one.
Yeah, I'm grumpy still. They give us core cards and they don't always end up printing support for the core cards before the core rotates. Didn't we have like this weird thing where like we had like Mal'Ganis and Warlock, and then like Warlock got 0 like big like demon support? Like people were like, oh man, they're gonna bring back Q Block, and then we didn't really see any Q Block.
I wouldn't get specific hopes up, right?
It's just saying like
cards, but
I don't know how far they plan. I know they plan themes. I don't know how long out they actually start developing individual cards aside from like.
I think you're crazy to think that the next set doesn't have most of the cards already all being play tested.
I don't know how much they play test, or maybe like I think they play test probably on a limited scale, right? Which is why when like the zeitgeist of the community takes a look at a card, they say, oh well, this is going to be a problem, and they crack it so much sooner than what they can do as devs.
I feel like we've been given actual numbers on this though, that they're usually working 2 to 3 expansions ahead of time.
I think they are, but I wonder how thorough that process is. I've heard mixed things about how thorough that process really is. Like the Company 9 is, yes, they've planned X number of expansions out, but like how in depth is the planning for, let's say, the 3rd expansion? Like do we have cards on paper right now for the 3rd expansion of the year? I don't think we would. We might have
Hearthstone, and they're not on paper most of the time.
I would say that I guarantee you they at least have a couple legendaries that they're planning on for those expansions.
I'm sure. I'm sure there's again. I think
there's work with those legendaries and
some like broad strokes.
Specific packages they're working on. Right?
Are you guys ready for Finja to get nerfed?
Like keywords,
it's too broken,
right? Hat or anybody else, like prove me wrong. I guess there's got to be a new keyword for the next expansion already made, and you guys already have cards with the new keyword on it, right?
Probably, like, but I think there is a lot of change.
That's got to be pretty early on in the development cycle. I feel like they've mentioned that. Like,
when do you think they noticed that Raza was going to be busted for the hero imbue, which we haven't even seen yet? Like you know what I mean? Like they, I don't. this is not a criticism necessarily of them, like the actual mechanics of what they have to do. I think they put out a really good product, and Hearthstone's a really fun game, and I've played a ton of it. I'm in the 300s for the first time in a couple of expansions, like at this point in the month, in the expansion cycle. Like, I don't know if I'm going to hit 400, but I'm going to kind of come close. This has been really fun, but I think in a large part it's because the wild meta has been pretty stable. I think this expansion is going to add to, barring some sort of like seedlock disruption, or something's revealed in Priest that somehow cracks some weird, dumb, and new deck wide open with it. We're going to get pretty much the same wild meta with some minor players in Tier 3 and Tier 4 on the sides. For me, whatever's more variety is better. So, like, I would take that over, like, let's see some shiny, new, fresh, like, Meta Tyrant hell. But yeah, this, like, I just wanted to know, Sheep, because this seems like it's going to be like more the same. Because I'm not so sure about a lot of these cards.
No, I think that they're definitely not like the spike cards for sure. Like,
I don't know if they're anybody. I think they're Reddit cards. Like Reddit wants a lower power level, and so we're printing lower power level. But in order to print lower power level, we have to go down a staircase. We've got to like gut so much potential stuff, and like I feel so bad gutting the StarCraft stuff that has been so fun and added so much to our format. I know people are probably sick. People are sick of it in Standard, right? And they're like, I've seen enough Terran Shaman. I'm done. But it's just like so sad that like an absolute banger of a mini set's going to get gutted probably, so that like new stuff can come in and actually have a chance.
Yeah, I big agree there that both, in order for things to have a chance, the hyper synergies there can't really exist. But also, I agree. I don't like that. It almost seems like it was, intentional from the, announcement of the StarCraft Mini-Set that was going to happen. And it's almost like we got the rental of this past meta, which was fun. I hope that whenever things rotate, that we get reversions. I hope that happens, but we're gonna have to wait a whole year to find that out.
I almost want them to bring Hall of Fame back. Like, I almost want them to just like, if you really don't like a card, guys, instead of killing it, just send it straight to Wild. Like, get it out, get it gone, and like bring back the Hall of Fame. Like,
on the one hand, yeah. On the other hand, like completely removing the card that they literally just printed would also be, which is kind of what they're doing anyway, maybe, like,
they're kind of doing it anyway, aren't they? Like, a lot of times it's kind of what they're doing anyway.
Why are you making me grumpy?
With the new cards. Anyway, like we were talking about how when they give us the early card for the set, and then they're saying it's just in for a year, it's like they're Hall of Faming it after a year.
Yeah,
right?
but
like,
this is the mini set. I completely agree. If it wasn't the not just set, but mini set of the most recent expansion, like the thing that we've had for the like literally smallest amount of time possible. You know what I mean? Like, it's, when did the StarCraft mini set come out? Like, it was kind of early for a mini set, but
not long ago, like a month and a half ago, 2 months ago at this point.
Still was.
Yeah, so the new set is what, March 25th, if I recall correctly?
Yeah, this was like end of January or something like that. StarCraft Mini-Set came out, like, not long ago.
So even Gen Baku, like, what would it have been? Just those 2 or 3 months, right? Like, that short amount of time. But at the same time, if they're just nerfing them to the ground, like, that's what's so hard to kind of understand. It's almost like they sold a rental. Now I'm getting grumpy about it. Now I'm grumpy sheep.
Sorry. But it's been bugging me.
Because I really don't like the if that was intentional from the get-go, because I liked the...
I don't care because I play Wild, so it doesn't matter.
But it does matter because we won't be able to play the StarCraft cards in Wild as they have been for the past 2 or 3 months.
If they wreck them, if they decide to gut them, then of course,
Yeah.
then that would be brutal. Yes, please just rotate them instead of gutting them or whatever. Like,
Even though it's been so short a time, I agree, man. I completely agree with you.
They created something so cool that if they decide to destroy it, it would be absolutely awful, right? Because it's just so neat and so different, and they made so many signatures and hero portraits and cards and everything. Like, they put so much into it. Why would you ever put that much into it, make all of your customers pay for all this stuff, and then be like, oh, by the way, it's all
marketing and balance are not, or they don't talk. They're two completely separate departments, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but at the same time, like, you're gonna have some friction there where this is gonna happen.
Because if honestly, like, I love the signature hero portraits. I got that, like, it was a lot of money, but I was happy with the thing. But 2 of those are being, like, completely nerfed, I'm guessing. We don't know what the extent of that is, right? But, like, we know that 2 of them are getting nerfed. If I have to wait a year before they're playable again, like, that sucks. I play Wild, so if they unnerf everything, then cool. Like, I'll be able to play with them again. But, like, man,
this is very relevant too.
That sucks.
This is very relevant too. Like, what kind of a revert season are we going to get? Are we going to get, like, the floodgates open? Because we've had a lot of nerfs.
Yeah,
I feel
there's
like
a lot
this
of
could
stuff
be a
that
total discussion.
There's a lot of stuff that
own.
Shouldn't be unnerved. And we don't have to get too deep into it, right? There's a lot of stuff that shouldn't be unnerved, or should be only partially unnerved, or maybe should be released in a form that it never was, because it's going to work better in Wild that way. But I think we, as the Wild community, just sort of accepts the nerfs a little bit better. We take it a little bit better if we know that they're shoo-ins to get reverted at the end of the day. We had a ton of cards that were popular in Nathria and I forget what other cards were in that set, in that rotation, but we had like a lot of cards that we said, oh, these are shoo-ins to get reverted. It's cool that it's getting nerfed now. We'll just get it back again. And then we didn't get it back. And I think there were good reasons why we didn't get it back. I think the company was under a lot more stress this time last year. There's a lot of uncertainty. They were doing a lot of downsizing. They did not know where they were going. They did not need extra headaches trying to unbreak a Wild format because they reverted the wrong thing. I don't know if they're going to be as conservative this time around. I think if we have a second year where they're conservative on reverts, then I think you're going to start seeing a lot more up in arms from the Wild community on standard nerfs. Like, standard specific nerfs are going to become hot topics in the Wild community, because we're just like, well, what the hell, guys? We're never getting these things back. So I think that's something to keep an eye on.
And I think that if they hadn't messed up so bad with Kel'Thas in particular, that we would see them not be nearly as hesitant to, like, try something, because the Kel'Thas.
You could see it coming from a mile away.
Yeah, it was obvious.
This is a bad idea, guys.
And it was.
Don't do this.
Sometimes people just want to watch the world burn, you know?
Sure. I mean, yeah, and it didn't help that we also had another really stupid combination that, again, if you were a Wild player, you cracked it in 2 seconds. Let's swap the boar stats with the dankness,
darkness.
and then copy it, and then go face with it. Like really, like, duh stuff. If you sat down and you were a Wild player, and because again, the Wild community, I think, literally broke that combo in 30 seconds. Like, people saw switcheroo and were like, oh, you do this. So I just expect more of the same, I guess. I don't know. Grumpy. Sorry for getting grumpy.
That's okay.
I'm
learning. Okay. I'm learning to get used to it. Oh my gosh. I can't remember. Boogerworm said something like, you're not the most optimistic of players, Schmoopydady. Something like that. It was so funny. Yeah, you tend to tilt a little easily. Something like that. He said it was,
Which
so
is funny. I don't feel like I tilt all that bad, but you know what? Like, I don't know. There's a lot of faux outrage that you have to kind of like put up with too when you're streaming, and then sometimes you're like actually outraged, and that's when I start timing people out. So like, you got to be careful. You got to learn my moves.
You time someone out just for giving you a bad deck.
Yes,
Well, I mean, they earned that one.
they're in that one. They know what's coming.
It's listener decks.
Isn't the point that they're bad?
No.
I'm gonna start coming up with more decks for your stream.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, send her.
Give her.
Give her.
Unrelated Advice with Electric Sheep City.
That's you.
Hit me.
All right, so as everyone knows, I somehow have turned into a nerd in the last, well, let's say my whole life, but more of the book reading type of nerd in the last, I'm going to say like, it's been at least 5 years. I was starting off with my Stephen King obsession when I started getting back into Stephen King around, I'm going to say like 2018, I read it. I had previously read Pet Sematary way back, but then didn't jump into reading again because I thought reading was, I don't know, not the best use of my time. But I've since changed. Anyways, so that's Stephen King is something I've read a lot of, and I do obviously venture outside of that. Before that, my favorite author was Hunter S. Thompson. I read a lot of Hunter S. Thompson stuff. But sometimes I don't always know where to venture out to. And my good friend Sheep here recommended the Red Rising series to me. And I have so good. Anybody listening who has never jumped into the Red Rising series, holy crap. It is so good.
Not for children. Not for children. But
No,
incredible.
Incredible. I introduced it to my older brother-in-law. He's like 10 years older than me, and he just fell in love so fast. Now, since you gave me such a good recommendation, right? You know the things I like. I like thriller, mystery, sci-fi, horror, that kind of thing. Is there anything else? Like off the top, you can sit for a minute. Is there something else that has captured you and you think that you could recommend to me that I would like? I don't have to like it just as much as I like Red Rising, because that's hard to
That'd be
beat.
a hard one.
But is there another series or author that you could toss my way that I would be excited about?
Neil Stephenson is probably where I would go
Neil
next.
Stephenson.
So one of my
Not
all-time
Gaiman,
favorites, Stevenson. So Stephenson. So two of the books that I love the most from him are Seven Eves, all one word, and Diamond Age.
Okay.
And those are two of my favorites of his. He did some other like classics that you'll recognize in the like cyberpunk kind of like
The genre.
series genre. Yeah, genre is the word I was looking for. Thank you. Snow Crash is probably his most popular one. Cryptonomicon is another one of his big ones. Those are both incredible. Anathem is also really good. Reamdy, which is like read me, but two of the letters are different, is also incredible. So that one's about like this game developer dude who basically like made like the in-universe version of WoW. And then something happens to him and things then kind of cascade, and the plot ensues.
Cool.
I wasn't as big a fan of the like Baroque cycle, so those are kind of like prequels to the like Anathem and Cryptonomicon. So I wouldn't at the very least start with those. I haven't gotten through all of those yet. Eventually I will. There are only 3 of them, but they're big ones.
I gotcha.
So those ones I wouldn't start with Neil Stephenson at least, but like the other one, Seven Eves, is incredible, and another tome. So none of his are particularly short reads. You'll definitely have a lot to chew on for sure.
All right. Well, wiser words have never been spoken. And you heard that on
Born to be wild.
If you read the Diamond Age, read it on like a tablet or something, like especially if you have like a Nook or Kindle Paperwhite or whatever.
I have an iPad.
Read it on your iPad. Truthfully, like reading the Diamond Age on something like that is so much better than reading it on just like a book, and that is the only time I will say that about like almost any book. So yeah.
For Diamond Age. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I'm sure there's a reason.
Mm-hmm.